Welcome to the product owner lesson about my feedback. About my feedback is part 3 of a trilogy to cross-check my attitude to my tickets. About my tickets is part 1 where we learned that the feedback of the customer to my product is a gap that shows the desired product, how the customer aims to use my product. And this is a kind of a compass that shows me the truth to my product, and it allows me to reflect if I'm on the right track with my product development. It is also a kind of a mirror, provides me feedback that how is my product placed in the market. And we saw that the hurricane mode of a product feedback is something what is impossible to handle and to tackle. So this is completely avoidable. And on the other hand, the desert mode, that stands for no feedback, is also something what is tricky. So we watch out for oasis to have feedback to be considered. And then the third main image was the rainforest mode. So that is exactly the feedback we are expecting and desiring as a dev team, because the feedback is like rain that develops our product and it grows, and we are just happy with the feedback. So this part now is about exactly the question how or what can we do to develop in such kind of feedback. And the part 3 now is about the topics data, IT, DevOps, and the software development. And let's start with our foundation. What about my foundation? Because without a solid foundation, you will never have a stable product in the market. So let's have a look on the checklist about my foundation. And the first point I like to mention is what about my unit test coverage? If you have your test coverage closer to 95% than to the 50%, you are maybe on the right track, and just be encouraged to increase your unit test coverage of your product. Same with automated test cases. You should have used or introduced automated test cases wherever is it possible. So there should be the coverage entirely to have it inspected from A to Z and Z to A, and you can have your test sets running overnight or over weekend at least, and then you know what happens to the increments, and when you release, you run a full inspection of the system, which is then also the next topic, that you should really build small increments and release frequently. And if you have a kind of CI/CD pipe, it is extremely helpful, and avoid big bang releases completely. Well, when you have frequent releases, it is then also required that you have release notes prepared, and that should be also an automated process, and it's part of the dev to have it documented, and then you have also the proper information added to the release notes. And the same is with the documentation. It shall be really treated as source code, and the documentation has to be up to date and provides all required information to the service desk and the customer and user. Now let's start and let's go clockwise here to those topics, with the data topic. So the checklist of the feedback to data related topics to my product. So the first question is, do you have customer data? So those are data the customer is entering to the system or processing into the system. In this case, it is really, if there's something wrong with the data, it should be internal feedback to the back office of the customer who prepares those data, or you have data in your system from any third-party data provider. So in this case, if there's something wrong with the data, the service request to the data provider has to be done from the customer, but not to you. But if there are data you are providing, or data they are processed by your system. In this case, you are interested in the feedback and a ticket or service request, to have your data or the process of the data, improved, corrected. You're really looking to it. To sum up, if there are data topics with customer data or data from data provider, you should not see a ticket at all. If it is related to the provided endpoint, it can be, of course, then a software problem, but you should not see any ticket to this matter. But if the data are part of your product, so you're providing data or you process data and the data are not expected, then the data ticket is very needed and required information for you. So let's continue with a checklist regarding the IT and the environment and the operational part. The first topic is the deployment. So is my deployment well organized? Is it a stable process that avoids all surprises? That means, do you have a diagnostic? Is the installation possible? Are all lights green and you can install, or service desk can install? Do you have an auto test on the installation that ensures that the installation was successful and you have it tested already? And another point I like to mention is, does your deployment script has also the rollback procedure, so that on request anytime after deployment you can on the command roll back and go to the last previous version. Another topic here I mention is the monitoring. And here, is it reliable? Is it complete? And it is also solution oriented. So do you give guidance to the service desk what to do in the situations they have to provide an action to bring a service back, to restart. So if this is not done automated by the system, you should have also the solutions available for the service desk. And that's then the third point, the collaboration between dev and ops. So you should really cultivate the DevOps culture. So that means also that the dev is available for the ops and the ops is providing feedback to the dev to improve the whole thing, to be really in the DevOps culture of collaboration. Now we are already at the third topic, which is the software part, and let's continue here with a checklist of feedback related to my software. The ticket, how do we organize the feedback of a ticket? So it could make sense to have it also as a training item on the customer training, or to have tutorials that shows how tickets should be reported. It should be an easy feedback. So keep it simple to have your feedback. And here is a sample that you just have. Maybe you have a feedback button if you have a front end to your product provided, and the customer just has to hit the feedback button. So by default, there is a screenshot of the issue of the front end. The error message is provided, and then also the files to the case, calculation, trace file, log files. And the screenshot by default is added, and the customer just might edit a short explanation, which is very welcome from the customer, small case, how he runs the system, and then just send feedback back instant to the service desk, to your product, to the dev of the product, to the product owner. Be transparent wherever it is possible. This means, just like the trace functions we mentioned, for if you have complex methods, and you can provide the trace also to the user, that he can reflect the steps what has been done and be confident with the method. It's helpful, but be transparent wherever you can. So also your user documentation should be easy readable and transparent, and the system should be intuitive for the user. And the documentation you provide, that should be consistent with the product. So the documentation and the product is one unit, and it should be be up to date and easy to read. Now let's look on a specific case. Of course, you can have dependencies. They are always dependencies between data and the software, but especially when the data world is changing super dynamically, it is a very, very, challenging and demanding process. So if you have high dynamic data behind your product, then your software has to be really robust, and the automated tests you run needs really a large envelope that you can cover a big possibility of those relations between data and software. But you will see situations that you have cases not considered or not covered from your product and also your tests. So for this, you need a kind of a backup procedure. This means it is a kind of help function, and this help function allows that the user has a solution, but the optimum you wanted to provide is not possible. So it's a little bit like today it's not my day with the data we have, so you have to proceed like this. But it's then the question, to have then this also inspected. So the problem feedback should be then also here easy with a snapshot of the system where everything is in of the data plus the calculation files to it should be provided in this case as well, that this case could be inspected easily and considered if there is a possibility to improve. So my final feedback to this lesson is please consider especially the checklist about the foundation. So do you have a solid foundation to your product? Train and provide easy feedback to your system. So I placed this topic to have on a single button clicking, you have the error message, the calculation files and the screenshot added, and the user just can write a short note how he catch this situation, and then it is very easy for the dev team to inspect the case. Be transparent, so also for complex methods, provide a trace file that the user can verify exactly what your product has been done to be confident. Be also a good sample, provide instant feedback whenever is possible if you have emails or customer or your stakeholders is contacting and you have looked to the case, to the feedback and the email. And if you have the possibility to, if you looked into it, just provide instantly feedback rather than parking it, because then you lose even time because you have to look up a case twice. So if you have instant feedback possibilities, just do it. Then the customer has also really an instant and appreciated feedback from your side. Cultivate the DevOps culture. So the collaboration of the product owner, the software team, and the ops is very needed. As a product owner, focus on your product, your customer, and your dev crew. So thank you for listening. I wish you all the best for your crew and your product. So thank you for your attention, and I have a few other topics on my backlog, so there might be a follow-up, a chance to see you again. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye bye.